My wife and I have two children. Karina, our daughter, is now 18, and Cade, our son, is 16.
Our daughter was born in March of 2016, and I worked then, and I still work I'm on the bishop's staff for the Diocese of Chicago.
My second child was born in my second call. I was an associate rector at St. Stephen's Episcopal Church in Wichita, and I was 7 months pregnant when I was called there. So they knew exactly what they were getting.
Two kids. One was born in May of 2004 and the other in the end of July in 2007.
I have one daughter. Her name is Elizabeth, and she's 8 years old.
My wife and I accepted a call to my present parish in Southeast Washington because we wanted to be closer to our family. And I had been there since 2019, and we found out we were expecting a daughter early in 2021.
So my first child, I was working outside of the church in 2009, and then in 2012, I had my daughter while I was a church employee. I was director of Christian faith at a church in Charleston, South Carolina.
No question that I was able to take 10 weeks and ease back in and bring the baby back to work with me. And I suffer from postpartum depression and discovered that after the first baby. So knowing that that was likely with the second baby in ministry, I was able to focus on all the things I needed to do during that 10 weeks to deal with that. It did come and able to healthfully process that transition then.
So I had negotiated family leave as part of my package. It had not been until then, from my understanding, a part of the standard letter of agreement in our diocese. So when during negotiations for the position, I had requested a total of 6 weeks of family leave. I was countered by the parish with 4 weeks of family leave and asked that I would be in the pulpit for the last 2 of those weeks. I agreed to those provisions with an added stipulation that I'd be allowed to use my sick leave to extend parental leave at my sole discretion, that the vestry wouldn't be able to complain to the bishop or any other authority if I needed to extend it. That ended up being very lucky because my wife ended up having a C-section instead of a natural delivery, which in turn impeded her recovery from pregnancy and meant that it was really important that I be at home.
We have parity in our diocesan staff for parental leave. So if a clergy member of the staff or their spouse has a child, they at the time received 8 weeks paid leave, as did any lay staff. So I was very, very lucky, even as the non-birth parent, to be able to have 2 months at home with my wife and our brand new daughter. It was hard enough to go back to work at the end of 8 weeks. I can't imagine if I had had to go back to work after a couple weeks or less than a week. It would have been really detrimental to our family. And I'm actually due to have a baby in early November, and we just last month revised our diocesan policy for clergy parental leave to be 12 weeks paid. Since the bishop's staff has parity with the clergy, I will now get 12 weeks when our next child is born, which will be even better because now with the skyrocketing cost of daycare, I will also save a whole month's tuition on infant daycare. But the bonding will be really, really the most important thing.
I took about a year off because it would be difficult to do my work and tend to her needs at the same time. So I was without compensation and without work or anything like that during the time that she was born and then up to a few months old. I've always been working with the children's program, so I was the person that was taking care of the children, and then now I'm the person that is in need of people to take care of my child while I'm doing other church work.
My first child was born just after I graduated from seminary and just before going to the parish, and I had felt a lot of pressure just to show up and start work. We moved, and I pretty much jumped into it then.
There was no family leave for them, so the rector allowed me to take 3 weeks, and they did pay me for those 3 weeks, but instead I did not get a raise that year when the rest of the staff did. It was the hardest year of my life. She was born on a Thursday, and that Sunday was the annual meeting, and the priest asked me to come in to run the tech for the annual meeting, and I said no. So I came back for Ash Wednesday, and I honestly don't remember most of that year. She didn't sleep through the night till she was 15 months old. And because childcare doesn't open until they are older, she had to come with me. She came with me to church until she was 8 months old. So I never had a break. I was doing childcare, I was nursing, I was then pumping once she went to childcare. And I sadly don't remember a lot of the first year of her life because I was so exhausted most of the time. I never recovered from that.
The acknowledgement that families have all different shapes and tones and sizes, and what used to work in the church doesn't work anymore, and so we have to be adaptable and responsive to whatever the needs of the parent or parents may be.
The parity between clergy and lay employees, I think, is very important. I know I live a very privileged life as clergy in the Episcopal Church, and I think our lay employees deserve those same benefits. But also, I didn't realize that what I experienced was not universal. And when I started to hear the stories, everyone should have had that experience that I had without question. It shouldn't have to be remembered to be put in your letter of agreement when you sign with a church, whether a baby is a twinkle in your eye or not. It should just be.
I would love it to be 12 weeks, at least 6 weeks, paid. Let people have a break. Let it be for adoption. Let it be for dads. Let it be for partners. It's a hard time in a parent's life, and all the care that we can give at church is God's work to help them bring that child up into the world.
Number one, I hope for parity with clergy and lay employees. That is a tricky thing because a lot of times, especially with lay employees, the instances of less than full-time employment are higher, and so therefore the automatic benefits of a full-time or three-quarter time position are usually not offered.
There's just a lot of tacit assumptions that that people will not take time, that people will feel pressure to ignore policies even if they exist because it's just what we're supposed to do. We live in a society that defines us by the amount of work that we do. And if we're not doing that work, we somehow both feel the pressure that we're not being worthy and that we're not living up to expectations and that we're not earning our paycheck, and that we believe that the church has that same feeling about us. So we need to not be tacit. We need to be explicit and say that that is wrong, and that to be healthy and whole, we need to spend time with our growing families.
When my child was born, I was serving as a curate. My boss, the rector, required me to preach the following Sunday as a lesson, as serving while under stress and being tired. I was serving as a priest in a parish that did not have a family leave policy when I became pregnant. Our diocese did not have guidelines for family leave at that time, and the vestry voted to provide 8 weeks of fully paid leave. I opted to use 2 weeks of my vacation time to extend my leave. The continuation of income allowed me to provide care for my child without undue stress on my family. In the absence of this income, we would have struggled enormously. The insurance provided significantly reduced the costs associated with the quality prenatal care and giving birth. I remain grateful for the economic benefit and support provided to the family that enabled me to continue to serve in this parish for nearly 10 years. I would, however, note that family leave is not the same as sabbatical. and that I was not afforded the opportunity to take a sabbatical during the course of ministry, as I had taken more than one family leave. In my last semester of seminary, I accepted my first call to serve in a parish. A few months earlier, my spouse and I had welcomed our first child. While negotiating my letter of agreement, I requested that parental leave be included in the letter. We hoped that we would have another child. When the rector heard my request, they assured me that they would take care of me. A few years later, we became pregnant with our second child. Our family was home from the hospital for just a few days when the call came asking how the baby was and when I would be returning to work. I managed to stay home for just over a week before the pressure to return became too much. Now, as a rector, I include paid parental and paid grandparental leave in the letters of agreement for all staff, lay and ordained. We offer 12 weeks of parental leave and 2 weeks of grandparental leave. We recently experienced a vital member of our staff being away on parental leave. We even extended their time away when an unforeseen family situation arose. We as the church ask a lot of our employees, and providing paid parental and paid grandparental leave is the right thing for us to do.